r/ask Reddit. What did somebody say that made you think this person is out of touch with reality? An American tourist I met. I live in South America. When I asked her how it felt to be so far from home, told me that she really isn't that far because these so-called foreign countries are actually located within the United States and they just fly the plane in circles for hours and hours to convince you that you're in another country. Holy shit. I need some of what she was on. A guy at a party was talking about how great technology was. I agreed. He then proceeded to talk about how there are people made of computer chips walking among us and we don't know who they are. I took the opportunity to say, I know, you could be one of them, and walked away. I stared at him from across the room off and on the rest of the night. Good times. The synths are everywhere. He just might be onto something. I mean, my best friend left his cap off his toothpaste. Worked with a guy that was a major conspiracy theorist. He said zip codes are used in the case that the government wants to drop bombs on US soil. Yep, because they wouldn't ever use coordinates. Right, Matt? I mean, that doesn't even make sense as a conspiracy. That's like saying we all have addresses so the government knows where we live. That guy is beyond just being a moron. You should send him ludicrous area codes and tell him it's a coded message. Really mess him up inside. A family friend's son has autism. I overheard my grandfather say, when's the kid gonna snap out of it and get a job? If your grandpa ever complains about pain or old people things, just ask when he's going to snap out of it and become young again. How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man? I am a waitress and someone wrote get a real job on the line for my tip. It was a $150 tab with an incredibly demanding table. I work another job and I go to school full time. But whatever floats your boat. Edit. For everyone asking if I got my revenge. Yes, I called him out on an anonymous social media platform. So take that. Kapow. It's always the neediest tables that leave the worst tips, isn't it? I always hated that. Ah yes. The law of table dowry, not to be confused with the law of Canadians. And Schrodinger's redneck. He either leaves 40% or 5%. No in between. My mom was absolutely certain that corn could only be harvested by hand. I showed her videos of corn harvesting machines, and she insisted they were all CGI. It grew into a pretty significant argument. Eventually she called my sister, who is a librarian, to ask her. When my sister agreed with me, she said okay then and never spoke of it again. Who the hell understands CGI but not corn? The most crushing part of this is that she clearly thinks your sister is the smart one. I worked at a vet clinic, and a woman came in with her dog who had a horrible skin problem stemming from a flea infestation. Before I could even say anything, she claimed someone was after her and had been stabbing her and her dog in their sleep with tree bark. It took me a few seconds to process that one. She also told me that she knew we hadn't actually euthanized her old dog, that she had years ago, but that we had sold her to Hollywood. Apparently she saw her in a commercial and that was her proof. The dog would have been like 20 by that point, so no, we didn't sell her to Hollywood. Honestly kind of sad, but the only person I have ever directly interacted with who was truly out of touch with reality. My dad retired last November. After being out of work for a few months he decided he needed a simple job to keep him busy. He applied at Total Wine as a cashier and asked for $20 an hour because that's what he thought minimum wage was up to. When my dad became disabled, he got disability benefits. His benefits amount to roughly what I was living off of at the time, working full time at $15 an hour. He called me to complain about how little he was given. It was too close to minimum wage. How it wasn't enough for one person to live on. He paid into it his entire life. ETC. I said wow, that's awesome. You're getting twice minimum wage. That's about what I bring home. He went very quiet. He's never brought it up again. Edited to say, he also thought you could get a 1-bedroom apartment for $300 a month, all utility bills included in our area, and actually got mad at me for getting a roommate. It's closer to $800, $900. Utilities billed separately. My boss made a comment like that when I mentioned I was moving out on my own instead of having a roommate. What? Can't you get an apartment for $800? Why do you want a fancy one for $1,200? This is so Carl. One bedrooms are 1,300 plus unless you want to risk getting shot or mugged. Someone seriously asked me, wow, how'd you get your baby so tan? My Native American wife holding the baby. I always avoid this person when I can. How can you be so dumb? Toaster oven. Next question. Next. I work with a girl. She's 21. Bit of a stoner. Living with her boyfriend who works at Pizza Hut. We also work in food service. She thinks she wants to marry him, but he has to spend at least $10,000 on a ring. And when she gets married, she wants one room in her house that is all pink, so she can get ready and put her makeup on. Then she's going to sit around the house all day smoking the dankest weed in a pink fur-lined housecoat. Then when her man comes home they can do their thing. Edit. Man, this blew up. I suppose bit of a stoner was an understatement. I have many more stories about her that would make you scratch your head. And I like goals too. However, 21, no college goals. Says her dream job is to be a video vixen and makes $9 HR right now. Means she has no sense of reality. Yes, reminds me of a friend I had when I was 18. Her life plan was literally to become a drug lord and move to Portugal. Except she thought Portugal was in South America and refused to believe me when I reminded her it is in fact in Europe. Portugal? Going to live it up down all South America. Heart, Mikey? A friend's uncle, who is a spiritual healer of some sort, claimed one day he would be known as the first man to cure cancer with spiritual healing techniques, whatever that mean. The woman he treated stopped her treatments because she was cured and died inside 6 months. Apparently no one saw fit to bring that guy to justice. His explanation was, she died from a different cancer that was at the same place with the same symptoms at the same time, and the first cancer was hiding the second one, so he couldn't treat her properly because, you know, I couldn't feel the second one. I wish he would go to prison. She died from a different cancer, he was that different cancer. So basically it was a super stealthy ninja cancer. They can be so hard to feel. When the new store manager was introducing themselves to our team, she started off with, I love retail. The reason I started my career in retail is because at the age of 14 I wanted a second horse. One of the worst managers I've ever met. Incredibly out of touch and just a bit racist. I once watched my boss berate his 2 receptionists, making $7 an hour, because his monthly income from the company had dropped from $40,000 to $25,000. To be fair, he had the common decency to stop once he realized how absurd it was for him to state the actual numbers to them. You know, berating them sucks, but I'd be pretty furious if I was suddenly making $15,000 less a year. I work as a psychologist at a school. One student had missed nearly 30 days of school in one term. 55 days. So I was asked to investigate. The mother straight face told me that she didn't want to drive the 2 minutes from their house because they had to cross a train track, and she thought having to wait for a train to pass was simply unacceptable. I thought she was joking. She was not. Why didn't the kid just walk to school if they lived that close? But what if a train makes them wait? My grandmother, who doesn't live with us, told my out of work brother that he needs to stop doing work around the house because I, being female, should be the one doing it all. Never mind, I'm the only one with any sort of income. Lem do all the housework too. KTHX. We had a good laugh at that one. I had a similar event. My wife's elderly Greek parents explained, in great detail to both of us, why my wife should serve me my plate first at every meal. Then, she should ask me if everything is to my expectation before serving her own plate. I cook most of our meals. I also am extremely egalitarian and would feel ashamed to let someone else serve me all the time. We serve each other when possible, but that is from a place of love, not a place of duty or old tradition. My ex-GF and I briefly lived with her grandmother. I often cooked. In fact, she often chased me out of the kitchen because that was her domain. One day as she and ex-GF left the house to go pick blueberries, she said to me, "Well, I guess you are on your own for lunch today. Good luck," and kind of laughed. Eleanor, I cooked your dinner last night. What the actual duck makes you think I'm going to have trouble right now? I get a lot of info from Dr. Phil and Dr. Oz. They are a great resource without having to do more than turn the TV on. As someone who works in healthcare, we get lots of those. So, ducking, meaning. Duck Doctor Phil, giving people on his show access to drugs to make them appear worse off. Scum of the earth edit. Earth to earth. My boss has some very weird one-liners. He's often, not joking, told me he was born in the same year as me, when he's a 60-year-old man, and I'm in my 20s. He also often referred to himself as Little Boy Blue, nodding politely as 90% of my job at this point. Is your boss called Michael? What's that supposed to mean? The spork is the devil's utensil because it is the amalgamation of the masculine fork and the feminine spoon and is trying to blur gender lines in society. Double quote. How the duck is a fork masculine and a spoon feminine. I'm now more confused about my comment having so many upvotes. 763 upvotes. What? A fork looks stabby and a spoon is curvy and non-threatening. I was struggling to pay bills and a friend was like, "Don't worry, your mom and dad care about you. They'll pay them for you." I told her I wanted to be a self-sufficient adult and my parents didn't have the money to cover my bills anyway. Her mind was blown. My mom came to my work once and when she got there I handed her a few bills and some change. A girl I worked with was wondering who that woman was and I was giving her money. When I told her I lent my mom money, her jaw dropped and she asked me so many questions. My mom is poorer than I am. I've mentioned it here before, but twice this year I've had a co-worker threaten me for things that only occurred in his head. A few days ago he got in my face because I asked how was your Christmas vacation? Have you reported him for harassment and hostile work environment? Edit. I say HR because the poster said they got threatened by a co-worker. On a serious note, that's harassment. I grew up in a rich town not being rich. I will never forget this one girl saw me with my iPhone 3G in high school, and I was super lucky to have it, and the iPhone 4 had come out the weekend before. She then asked me 100% seriously, why don't you have the new iPhone? She didn't really understand not everyone could afford the new iPhone every time one came out. I totally understand. Once, my super rich friends and I went on a nice lunch. One of the guys told me it's a nice place so bring a lot of money. It wasn't a super fancy or exclusive place. But when the check came, it came out to be nearly $250 per person. I was mind blown, but they didn't seem to get it. I didn't have that kind of money like they did, and they gave me shit for not paying my part for months after. Edit. Spelling edit. To clarify, I didn't order anything worth $250. My friend ordered the same thing all around. It was a single home-cooked meal. It was an Arabic restaurant opened since the 1500s. Looking at the food, you would think it's $20 maximum. That's unducking believable. I'm no stranger to nice meals, but I don't even know. Did you drink 10 cocktails and have appetizers and desserts? WTF? And in that vein, did the menu not have prices on it? My mind is spinning, LOL. In Portland, Oregon, USA, I asked a traveler, "How do you like Portland?" And she replied, "I love it. It has the aura of a lizard," and I just got up and walked away. Portland can be weird, but sometime I just can't. That's pretty normal for Portland. I mean, it does feel pretty lizardy sometimes. Overheard from a girl at college freshman orientation in 2008. "I'm definitely worried. The economy is so bad my parents had to sell our vacation home. Well, you know, the second one we don't visit as often. Yeah. Don't mind me with my flat of ramen." Edit. A word. Ugh, I can't imagine having to go to the same vacation home every time. In the East, it could be the coldest New Year's Eve on record. Perhaps we could use a little bit of that good old global warming that our country, but not other countries, was going to pay trillions of dollars to protect against. Bundle up. I love the reply. How are you actually this stupid? Some dude from Jersey Shore just explained climate change more coherently than our president. Jesus Christ, what the duck is happening with the world? Today I experienced firsthand the dangers of climate change. My mother-in-law spent 13 days straight with us. We dropped her off at the airport, and on the way back to the parking lot where I leapt with glee and high-fived the parking attendant explaining my meal is going home, my wife's phone rang. The flight was cancelled due to weather. All flights to Newark were cancelled. Climate change will impact every facet of our lives. Tonight it contributed to the storm that cock-a-blocked me for 3 days. I worked at McDonald's, Sydney, Australia, for the good part of my teen years. One shift I was on register taking orders and this lady came up to me. She must have been in her mid to late 40s. She said, "Wow, McDonald's, you guys still exist? Haven't seen you around in years." That is word for FKN word. I was like, what? A very close friend, my money is my money but my partner's money is also my money. To clarify, she wasn't going to accept her partner having access to her money but only her to his. Also she's single. When I say Google it and they respond with I can't do it, I don't know how. It's almost 2018 and that person has $1,000, 1,150 euros in my country, smartphone in his pocket. I've tried to really step up my Google foo in the last couple years. Being able to access the wealth of knowledge and information on the web easily through Google is just the best. I've been thinking about putting Master Googler on my resume, but not sure how it would be received. Quickly, find me all the battles that took place in the year 1432, with the winning generals, and the closest water supplies to the site of battle. New fridges cost close to $10,000 inches, says my mill who has a fridge that hasn't been working for almost a month. They are using one of the drawers to keep everything in as apparently that part works, but all the shelves are empty. Update, not talking about a built-in fridge. They spent about $5,000 on their current one, purchased 5 or 6 years ago, refused to get a repairman in. Only one cabinet works. Sounds like blockage in the free online, but it's hard to diagnose through Reddit. Edit. I was making a guess based on the few times I rode along with an appliance tech I know. Oops. This isn't my most upvoted comment, but this is the most replies I've ever got. It's just a fridge, Michael. How much could it cost? $10,000. I have a few health conditions that my parents and grandmother never allowed me to disclose to my family or friends because it would be difficult to get me married. As someone with severe mental health issues, who has found their person, if someone loves you they're going to go through thick and thin to marry you. If anything, I'm thankful my son knew about my illnesses before we started dating. It made it 10x easier to ease him into it. Your family has it all wrong. I'm glad you see that they're wrong. A colleague and I both had our laptops out at work. He had some movies on his that he was offering to share onto mine for later viewing. I suggested an ad hoc Wi-Fi network as a means of quickly and painlessly transferring the files. Oh no, I don't believe in Wi-Fi. Sorry, what? That sounds like a joke, tbh. I mean, it's one banana. Michael, what could it cost? $10? Go see a Star Wars. My a-hole of an uncle once told my grandmother that it was her fault my grandfather got Alzheimer's because she didn't take care of him well enough. Edit. I've read all of the comments and just wanted to clear some things up for those who are wondering. Alzheimer's has been in both sides of my father's and mother's family for many generations. My grandma was more devoted to caring for my grandfather than a lot of people care about themselves. Even now he has regressed to the point where he has the mind of an infant. She is too old and frail to care for him alone, so she put him in a care facility, but she spends the better half of every day going to see him. Even though he no longer knows who she is, she still devotes almost all of her time to him. After getting a Dear John letter from my ex that explains why she wants to get divorced, we were sitting in the car and she asks me, "So after we get divorced, do you think we could get together sometimes and have sex?" She leaves me for another guy and has the balls to ask for casual sex after our divorce. Really quite pathetic. I nope the duck out of that. Same thing happened to me with a girl I dated for about a year. Cheated on me, left me to date that guy, then tried to tell me we should still be friends with benefits. Who the duck do you think you are? Will forever be the last thing I ever said to her. A woman I work with once said, "I'm convinced I'm immune to cancer because neither my mom nor my grandmother had it." Said lady has smoked more than a pack a day for 30 years but uses the above evidence as a reason why she's never had her lungs checked. I watched my grandmother shove a load of books off of a shelf at the bookstore the other day because she wanted one that wouldn't come out. When she walked away and left a pile of them on the ground, She looked at me and said it's okay. It's their job to pick that stuff up. Speaking from a retail experience. No, it's not. You're just adding extra work. I mean, yes, it's the janitor's job to clean the bathrooms, but that doesn't mean you can shit on the floor. My 50-year-old brother asked me if I don't believe in God and hell, what stops me from killing people. I can explain where the line of thought went wrong. Here, at least, it's pretty common for children of Christians to be told that our conscience is God speaking to us. Sometimes these children grow up thinking if you don't have God in your heart, you can't hear him. No God equals no conscience. Most Christians who still believe this when they grow up frame it in the sense that people can still hear God while not believing in him. What a lot of atheists hear when this question is asked is, if I weren't afraid, I would do all these things. When what they're asking, usually, is, I don't understand how you are able to tell right from wrong without God speaking to you. Not the person you're replying to, but wow, that puts things into perspective. I've always been mystified when Christians say that. Thank you. You know, if a baby is born underwater, it can live its whole life underwater. I laughed a bit because it's a fairly well-known dark joke, but then told her not to joke about that stuff because our co-worker was pregnant. She was confused when I told her not to joke. It's not a joke, it's a fact. After some debate, I learned she genuinely believes if a baby is born underwater, it will grow gills and learn how to breathe underwater. Same lady. 6 mo later. Yeah, I'm saving up right now to buy a car. I have my eyes on this great 2007 Holden her. Why don't you just buy a new one? Me. I don't have a lot of money. I wouldn't be able to afford a new car. I'm stretching the limit with this one as it is. Her. Ugh. It's not even that hard to afford things. Just budget. We were on the same salary, but she sold drugs on the side. Her grandpa paid her $200 month phone bill, and her mom gave her a $250 a week allowance. She was also given her car by her parents, and was constantly complaining about how old it was and she wanted them to buy her a new one. Edit. Since you guys liked that, here's another from her. We both went on break at the same time, both wanting a toasted cheese sandwich. There were 4 slices of cheese left. Our boss provided, so it's not like they were hers. I went to grab 2, and she cracked the shits. She insisted she needed 4 thick cut slices of cheese, over a centimeter of cheese, on her sandwich, and said I was being petty when I told her we could just both have 2 slices, which is the amount she'd usually put on a sandwich. She made her 4-slice sandwich, got 2 bites in, and then threw it out because it tasted weird. Gee, I wonder why. Okay, give me gold now PLS. Upvote for pregnant. That's one of my favorite videos in existence. When my mom lost her shit screaming at me, and when confronted had a completely different version of the story. It's not so much one time, as every time. About then I realized that you can't get an apology from someone who genuinely believes they're an angel and just moved on with my life without her. A narcissist's prayer that didn't happen. And if it did, it wasn't that bad. And if it was, that's not a big deal. And if it is, that's not my fault. And if it was, I didn't mean it. And if I did, you deserved it. All it took was a small loan of $1 million. Why can't poor people just get better jobs? Everybody who gets shot by police must have been a criminal. Just go in there with your resume and don't leave until you have a job. Disclaimer. These were said by different people. Edit. Thank you for the gold, kind stranger. Haha. I was adopted by Great Depression era parents. After high school there was just no convincing my mom that you couldn't instantly get a job by putting on a suit, walking into a place and asking to see a manager. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.